Hello, everybody. I'm the Vacuuminator.
I'm Buster.
And this week in Toku, we're going to be discussing a feel-good story, some surprises from Bandai, and the 2024 Super Sentai. But before all that, Buster, how are you doing this week?
Why are you asking this on this day? Why are you asking this on... Okay, I'm sorry. This week, tired. I was sick. I got sick.
Oh, you didn't tell me you were sick. What the hell?
I told you multiple times. I
have no memory of this.
Basically, this has led to a lot of naps in the morning. And even just now, I just had a nap before we started this podcast.
If it's in the morning, is it still considered a nap, or is that just going back to bed?
It's a good question. I know,
afternoon. Scholarly input here.
Afternoon. I meant afternoon. My perception
okay, yeah. Afternoon is definitely nap time.
Yeah, my perception of time is just all over the place, like my brain. Yeah. How are you, Mr. Vec?
I'd say I'm on an upswing, mentally speaking. Bit of a speed bump today, just due to the sheer fact of being a person alive in the United States of America on the day we're recording this podcast. But not too bad. It was more so because of the people who talk about the show we refuse to talk about anymore. That got speed bumped pretty hard just a few minutes ago. But that's all in the past, and it doesn't really pertain to this show. So I'm not gonna bog us down with it. Just say, like, mostly I am kind of getting back on my bullshit and feeling a little bit better about the flow of things as of today. That could literally change at any moment.
Yeah, I know you. You're a very on and off person when it comes to your mood.
Yeah, I'm slightly hyperbolic, I want to say. My sister is definitely like, she is a full-on diagnosed bipolar, but I feel like I have at least a little bit of it. Not like to an extreme degree where I need to take medication like her, but I do feel that way sometimes, where it's like, I was happy literally an hour ago, and then I saw one thing, and now I've been pissed off about that and anything else I've encountered because of it for the last couple hours. What the hell is wrong with me? But maybe that's just how humans regularly work, and I don't know how to process that. Something to bring up with my therapist. Anyway, something you should bring up with your therapist is the fact that you're not supporting modular media. Because if you're not supporting modular media, you probably don't have good mental health. You need to support the media creators whose content you consume. So please give us a like, comment down below. Let us know some of your thoughts on things that happened this week in Tokusatsu. Subscribe to the channel, ring that bell, and enable notifications so that you know whenever a new episode of this or any of our other podcasts drop. Go ahead and follow us on social media. We have a Twitter, it's at the Modular Media. We have a Blue Sky, it's at modularmedia.bsky.social. We have a Tumblr, it's at Modular Media, and we have a TikTok where we post clips from this and our other shows. That is at Modular Media. But that's all the plugging and tugging I got to do today. Let's go ahead and get into a little bit of news. And our first story this week is something that kind of slipped through the cracks the last couple of weeks, and I kind of feel bad about that, but it's just an unfortunate consequence of me making the migration over to Blue Sky, realizing there's not like a lot of good fandom news outlets on Blue Sky, and then making the compromise of I just went and followed all the fandom news outlets on the Modular account, and now I check the Modular account once every other day or so. But it came out about a week or so ago that Junya Ikeda, who is probably best known for his role as Guy Ikari, aka Gokai Silver, was suffering from some pretty big mental health issues. He never stated really what they were stemming from, just that like some life events that had happened that had caused him to be in a really bad kind of place mentally speaking. And he actually put out the call for fan letters, said like I could really use messages of support and just some people to kind of remind me why I do this thing and that it's worth doing. And there was actually a address released by his management company where you could actually send handwritten letters, and a lot of people sent him letters. Apparently, there were just so many that he's like, "Oh, I can never reply to all of these," and he literally just posted a tweet that was saying "thank you" in every language because he got letters from all over the world, which was kind of wonderful to see. It's not really like anything we can comment on too heavily. I just wanted to go ahead and feature it here for anybody else who might have missed it, and also just like, hey, little reminder, the people who make these silly children shows we like are still people, and they still go through the same struggles you or I go through, just in maybe different ways sometimes. And it's good to be mindful of that. And I believe the address is still open, so if anybody wants to go ahead and send him a letter, still, you can probably do that. I actually kind of wish I had been able to get it together in time to send him a letter last week, and I might still do that if I can find time in the next couple days. But all the information is down in the video description with all the other news links, so go and take a look at that story if you haven't already. We have the Tokusatsu Network article, as well as a Twitter thread that did a pretty good job of chronicling everything. Do you have anything to add to all that, Buster?
Well, like, it specifically says, like, a couple of months ago, like, in October of, like, last year, he was diagnosed with depression. Which is, like, you know, like, I get it. Like, when you think you're, like, he mentioned that he was, like, specifically, he felt like he had to be this happy force. So, like, when he got diagnosed, it really just hit him, like, and I can relate a lot. So, like, I hope he's doing well, and I hope he knows he's not struggling alone.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and move into struggling with our wallets, because Premium Bandai has announced the Alchemist rings from Gotchard are on their shop. You can go and buy replicas of those if you'd really like.
Oh, let's check the price. I'm not gonna like the price. I know I'm not gonna like the price.
$135 for a set of 3.
I'm gonna kill myself.
Bandai, you crazy. Especially because you're still releasing nostalgia merch for Ultraman Gaia. The Ultraman Gaia Agulater 25th anniversary version is going to be releasing from Premium Bandai in January. It's essentially going to be a remake of the original toy with some more show accurate sounds, bit higher quality material. There's going to actually be some voice clips in there, it looks like. And yeah, it's going to be going up for pre-order through Premium Bandai and will be offered at the Ultra Heroes Expo. And the price is going to be approximately $83 USD. Buster, you're the resident Gaia and Agul fan. Are you at all interested in this?
I am interested, but like I don't think I'll buy it. I think I'd rather get a statue or figure art of Agul than like I'm not really like a roleplay guy, and like I do like Agul's like transformation device, but I think I prefer Gaia's.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, just me personally, as somebody who hasn't seen this show, Ultraman transformation devices don't really get all that interesting or toyetic until around the newer generation era.
Well, that's kind of the beauty and critique a lot of people have with the new gen era, where it's like, oh, they put all the more toy and design into the transformation devices. Back in my day, it used to be a simple, like, you click one button.
Yeah, but we gotta make this shit, man. We gotta make this shit work, man. You gotta be able to sell something.
Yeah, true. I like new gen transformation devices, for the record. I'm just parodying the people who don't.
It's taking the Kamen Rider formula and just applying it to Ultraman. You got to be able to sell some doodads.
Yeah, speaking of doodads.
Hey, it was just announced, probably right after we released last week's episode, now that I think about it, that the SH Figuarts Ultraman Blazar will be coming with the electrifying blade, which, if you're not aware, we talked about it last week. Some new scans showed out. Blazar's going to be getting a sword called the electrifying blade, and the SH Figuarts will be coming with it. There's no special campaign or anything you have to do. It's just the same thing as Earth Garon. They didn't tell us about it initially because they didn't want to spoil the show.
Hey, so this feels unlike Bandai, right?
Yeah.
this feels like so uncharacteristically like Bandai, in a good way, to be clear, where it's like...
Oh, yeah, it's much more sporting than they usually are. Usually they'd be like, oh, this is going to be a bonus that you get if you order Blazar and Garon together. I'm almost wondering if that whole, like, back to basics, make it a much more simplistic kind of play pattern initiative behind Blazar is not just like a Taguchi thing that Tsuburaya agreed to and Bandai had to go with. I wonder if Bandai might have been involved in that decision-making process as well.
Well, I mean, remember, Bandai said to Taguchi, do whatever you want, we're making enough money. Remember,
Yeah, but I always assumed they were like, well, we're gonna do our Bandai thing, whatever you do. But this makes it seem like it might have been a much more collaborative process, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, which, but it's always good to see everyone working together, so...
Yeah, and you know what else is good to see?
What?
Better looks at suits. We got a slightly better look at the new King-Ohger Kyoryu Red suit. That being that it is a shot from the waist up via a promotional poster of the actual suit. And I really don't have much to say other than what we said about the Yudo last week. It looks about how you'd expect it to based off of that. And it's not terrible, but also it's definitely not going to be one of my favorite suits ever.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah. We also got an update this week on the long-rumored furred Kamen Rider Gotchard Rider. For those of you who haven't been keeping up, back when we were initially getting rumors on Gotchard, one of the main rumors was going around was there was going to be a furred rider that would come in pretty early and would be played by Masahiro Inoue. Potentially would be even a new set of powers for the character of Tsukasa Kodaya. That is still unconfirmed, but a new rumor that's been going around this week is that that rider's name is Kamen Rider Legend, and that they have a belt that is essentially the outer part of the Decade driver that you pull on to open it, with an interior that looks like the Beast Driver before it's activated, how like the Beast Driver folds up, and it apparently splits open to reveal an LED screen. And people are using this to feed into the speculation that it's going to be Masahiro Inoue. We have a very like rough artist rendering of it. That's like the only real tangible form of the leaks I was able to find while gathering news links last night. But it's really interesting. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't like Toku leaks are so all over the place that I can never know whether to believe them or not. This does kind of fall into the pattern of what they've been doing for tertiary rider belts the last couple of years in terms of like putting a shit ton of LEDs in them and making them P Bandai exclusives. But it's also just wild to me to think that they would do something this radical to like bring back a character like Decade in a show that's pretty divorced from any Legend Rider content so far. I don't know how to feel about it. How are you feeling, Buster?
Alright, I think based on this, it looks like it's going to be a gold rider. I think they're like, maybe the idea was Decade initially, but then they're like, okay, you know what, we're already having Kyoryu Red and like King-Ohger. Let's just make it a Decade homage instead of like more of a visual homage. Kind of, you get what I mean?
Yeah, it could very well be that. Like, it could be a suit that looks similar to Decade. Maybe he has slats in his helmet like Decade does.
Yeah, I could just see it like kind of like how the Revice forms were just like visual homages without actually being anything, you know?
Yeah, that could be interesting. I don't know. It's a very weird thing, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and hopefully we get some official confirmation on it soon, though I doubt it will be in the show anytime soon, just because, like, we just got our first properties of Valvard this week, and he's supposed to be, like, a rival character before becoming a writer proper. So, who knows how long that arc's gonna take, but...
Let's take time.
Yeah, and speaking of taking time, let's take some time slots and move them around, because another rumor that's going around this week is that TV Asahi is going to be dissolving the superhero time block and putting Rider Sentai, Precure, and free other shows, that being Shin-Chan, Doraemon, and an unnamed program, together in a new children's programming block that will be airing on Saturday afternoon instead of the Sunday morning that Rider and Sentai have been airing in for pretty much the entire Heisei era and Reiwa era so far. It's the rumor basically stems from a poster on 5chan, which is I believe it's like the Japanese version of 4chan, right?
I don't know. I don't go on all the Chan sites.
Yeah, but the person who's getting it to the American audience is at the real Matt Hunt, who is a semi-reliable leaker. He's been wrong about as much stuff he's been right about, from my experience with him. But this does seem to be gaining some traction, and if it does come to pass, it would be a rather radical shakeup to just the way Rider and Sentai are presented in Japan. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. I'm not entirely sure, because I'm not Japanese. I don't know how those shows are really perceived culturally, other than just the general facts that tend to get parried about all the time with them. Do you have any kind of take on this, Buster?
Apparently, if this rumor is true, they will be airing at 4 in the American morning. So who the... I mean, this is so... You guys ready to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch Sentai?
Oh boy, 3 a.m.!
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, I have stopped watching, like, live superhero time Raw for, like, a long time, so it's like, that doesn't really affect me. I'm just, give me the subs, you know?
Yeah, I only ever did that once, and can you take a wild fucking guess what that was for?
The Zyuohger Gokaiger thing?
Oh my god, you're so right! I did that both weeks. I think I might have tried to watch the first episode of Tokuger when it was airing live, but I don't remember that clearly if I did or not. It sounds, I have vague memories of the day that first episode came out, so long ago now, but yeah, I definitely did that for Gokaiger meets Zyuohger, and that was a good time. But yeah, for mostly I just wait until like late Sunday afternoon to grab the subs and watch them for this. So I'm probably going to be pretty unaffected by this, if I'm being honest. The only real concern is going to be avoiding subless spoilers, which is only really a problem on Tumblr, I've found these days, because Tumblr GIF makers, they just spring right into fucking action. And so I'm seeing shit from the middle of the episode with absolutely no context, and I just love that. Thank you so much, Tumblr Tokusatsu community. You're great otherwise, but I do find that annoying some weeks.
Yeah.
And speaking of things I find annoying, the Tamashii Effects line of complementary effects part sets for SH Figuarts has been getting increasingly rarer and rarer to find official versions of on the aftermarket in the last couple of years, and they've been getting more and more expensive, and they have also been knocked off to high hell. There was a huge explosion back around the time this line became a thing, and they released the modern versions of Bodykun and Bodychan, where just all that stuff, all the like general appeal figure arts, Tamashii Nations stuff was getting knocked off to high hell, and because of that, the market's kind of saturated and flooded, and it's hard to find the actual official thing you're looking for. And it seems like Bandai is aware of that, because they announced this week that several of the most popular Tamashii effects parts are getting official re-releases in a couple of months.
And 2 of them are Dragon Ball related.
Yeah, well, Dragon Ball is a huge subset of the Figuarts collector market. So.
I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah, it's going to be the yellow and white aura effects, the red flame effect, the green wind effect. I think that one is called. Yeah, wind green.
That can work for a lot of Kamen Riders.
Yeah, actually, I think that's because they did a green one, a purple one, and a translucent one all at the same time around the time Shinchoku Seiho Double happened. But also on the list is Yellow Thunder and Rock Beige. All very popular sets. I had Red Flame for a while and I ended up reselling it at one point just because times were tough and I didn't really need it at the time. But all of these are really good essential things for anybody who's into figure photography. If you have gotten into figure photography since these have come out and you haven't gotten these yet, I would highly suggest you jump on these pre-orders. I am very tempted to pre-order Rock, Thunder, and Fire myself personally, but that's up to be seen how my finances over the holidays go. And speaking of finances and them getting wrecked in the holidays, the official Tamashii Nations New York store is finally open. They had their grand opening yesterday as of this recording, and a couple of people in the Toku community were actually there and confirmed there is Kamen Rider merch there. They have for sale a special packaging of Kamen Rider 01 Rising Hopper, the regular releases of Geats Magnum Boost and Entry, and I believe they were advertising Black Sun and one other that's just not springing to mind right now, but they didn't actually have them in stock. Yeah, Shadow Moon. Shin Kamen Rider. They were advertising Shin Kamen Rider, but they didn't actually have stock of him yet.
Damn.
But it is pretty cool because finally a lot of that sort of boutique Bandai stuff is available at a retail level. Granted, it's only in one major city that probably most tokusatsu fans don't live anywhere near and could only afford to go to as like a vacation type thing. But it's still cool nonetheless that we've come this far, I think. So it was worth noting.
Yeah, freaking Rubber Ross is on the comments of the freaking Tamashii Nations thing, and I just find it funny.
And speaking of global outreach and New York continuing for tokusatsu in general, Tsuburaya Productions has announced that there will be an Ultraman presence at New York Comic-Con, which is happening next month, if you didn't know. Specifically, they are sending over the current suit actors for Ultraman, Ultraseven, and Ultraman Blazar to do some sort of stuff. It's probably going to be very similar to the.
Confirmed what they're doing.
Really?
I'll send you the link. They literally revealed it today, where there's going to be like a stage show with like Blazar and Earthgaron.
Oh shit! Oh, yeah. I'm actually kind of jealous of anyone going to New York Comic Con then.
Yeah, and like I think they might get the dub actors to dub over it. That's just speculation.
That would be fucking sick. Put that up on the YouTube or Ultraman Connection.
Yeah, like Spectacle Live at New York Comic Con. Like, I love when they do stuff like that. I love the way they did it like at that Anime Expo one year, and I love when they're doing it again. It's great.
Yeah. I'll admit, like, New York Comic Con has never been one of those ones that's, like, really high up on my list of, if I ever have the money to go to one of the big cons, I'd like to go to this. But occasionally it does kind of peak up with certain things I've seen from it over the years. And this is one of those ones where it's like, man, if money was not an issue, I would be getting plans together to go to New York Comic Con just for this year.
Well, speaking of money being an issue...
Oh, yeah. Getting back on the Bandai bullshit train, we got a couple of announcements for new premium Bandai items over the last couple of days, and one of those is a DX Kamen Rider Black Sun driver. That's right. They released the CSM before the DX. I think a lot of people, including myself, didn't think they were even going to do a DX because they went right to the CSM. But no, here it is, like a year and a half after the show.
I wish this came out earlier because I really like Black Sun and I really want a DX. So.
Yeah, it's
still
probably cool, but it's also probably stupid expensive, and it's one of those head scratching releases that's like this has got to just be to bilk more money out of the people who are completionists for this specific series, right?
Yeah, this feels like if you need every DX belt. Well,
or you just need every Black Sun branded item because you love that show so much. Because there are people like that for pretty much every Kamen Rider series I've noticed. But
speaking of kind of the most shocking thing this week.
Yeah, Bandai also announced on the same day that the next complete style gigantic release is gonna be the fucking Garouken. His big fuck-off sword from after he transforms that he can only use sparingly. They're making a prop replica of it.
I think the biggest thing to be taken from this is that Garo's not dead?
Apparent fucking Lee. My Garo's not dead. He's surely alive, hawking his sword on the fucking P Bandai site.
Yeah.
Because, Jesus, I buy this. I'm not gonna lie. There's that stupid white boy. The only time you're gonna be able to buy this, you gotta fucking buy this. And then there's another rational part of my brain that's going, what the hell are you ever gonna game? You do not have the space for it. You do not have the cash for it. Also, what left field? And it also came in conjunction with Keita Amamiya posting some like
Oh, sorry, my internet went whack. Oh, what did you ask?
I was just saying, this also happened, and then like a couple it happened. Keita Amamiya started posting like drawings of certain Japanese characters in his art style to Instagram with like really esoteric and potentially like I'm teasing something to Instagram captions. And I considered making that like a news link, but like I don't know if it's just like weird translation that's making me think something's up with that, because I've not seen anybody else talking about it. But I follow Keita Amamiya on Instagram, so I saw that as it was happening, and I'm like, is he trying to tell us something? Is a new Garo show finally happening? I don't want to get my hopes up, but please.
Yeah, freaking! It's been 3 years. Let's go.
Yeah, and let's just do something completely new and different.
Yeah, we were talking about this like maybe last week, but like we're kind of like continuing versus Road is just nah.
Kaiju news outlet is reporting that Godzilla 2000 Millennium is going to be returning to U.S. theaters for a Fathom event screening on November 1st. Listings have shown up for multiple theaters all across the country, and, you know, Toho's been doing a lot of these over the last couple of years, so it just kind of makes sense that they do it again, and, you know, it should probably be a fun, groovy time. If you haven't seen the movie already, why not experience it on the big screen? It'll depend on what I'm up to that week, but I just might make it happen. How about you, Buster? Do you have any interest in seeing Millennium 2000 on the big screen?
Vac, you must be mistaken. This is one of the only Godzilla films I've seen.
Oh, yes, that's right.
I thought it was fine. Not one of my favorites, but the ending, seeing that on a big screen will be fun. Because that's one of my favorite endings to a Godzilla film.
Yeah. It is a Wednesday, which is
pretty typical for Fathom events.
Yeah, Fathom events, at least for stuff we're interested in, seem to always be in the middle of the fucking week, but I don't know. I might try and fudge it and make it happen if I can go to a theater that's not too far from me. We'll see. But that is all there is really to say about that. Now on to something completely unexpected. This has just been a week of like some real blindsidey type things, and one of those is that the Shogoddam throne room from King-Ohger is now a Fortnite map. Because apparently the digital file for that volume set was actually created in Fortnite.
What?
Yeah.
Well, it's at least the Unreal Engine, because that's what's made in, like, that's what makes Fortnite.
Yeah, so they literally just gave the files to the Fortnite people and said, yeah, this is a thing. It's Japan exclusive, but still, it's kind of nuts. I've seen a couple videos going around of Japanese people playing on the King-Ohger set, and it almost has an uncanny valley like thing about it because it's obviously not entirely realistic looking, but it has a much more realistic style to the way it looks than your typical Fortnite map or character, so they look fucking bizarre running around on it.
Yeah. And like they've kind of been doing this, created in Fortnite map for like things for a lot of series. I know they did one just for One Piece. I guess this is like their constellation prize of we can't make character models for you, freaking have a map.
Mm-hmm.
So like yeah. It happens. And like it's cool.
Yeah. If you got a way to get onto Japanese Fortnite servers, I guess give that a try. But I honestly, I like what I've seen of the game. I've just never played it, and will probably never get around to it. But for those who enjoy it, go have some fun and listen to the new Beverly single, because Beverly has released a insert song for Kamen Rider Gotchard, which was actually featured in this week's episode. Oh my god, was it refreshing to hear an insert song actually be played during a fight in Kamen Rider again. And if you want to hear the clean version of it, they have released a short version on their usual music streaming platforms, and we'll have a link down in the video description. I actually really like it. I was shocked with how much I like this song, which is called Rising Fighter. Because and Buster, we've argued about this in the past, but for those of you who are new listeners or haven't been around for those arguments, I hate the build theme. I think the build theme is one of the worst Rider themes of all time, and for a long time I wouldn't listen to anything else Beverly did because of how much I disliked that song. This is like a total 180 for me. I think this is good enough. It could have been the Gotchard theme.
Yeah, I still haven't listened to it because freaking I can't get my freaking audio to mix properly, and I want to actually hear you while we podcast. So
fair enough. But
and like it was kind of poorly mixed in this week's episode. So
well, it was still there, and I mean,
yeah.
if you want to check it out, links in the video description. But that's pretty much all I got to say on that. Let's get on to our final news story of the week, which we were kind of expecting this. We just weren't expecting it so soon. 2024 Super Sentai has been trademarked, which means we know the name and nothing else. Baku Gauge Sentai Boon Boomger has been trademarked, which, if you want to take a very literal tack to it, the translation would be Explosion Increase Squadron Boom Boom Ranger. So Dynaman mixed with Go-Onger is essentially the theory that's running around.
The rumor says, like, on the link we have, is that there's going to be actual, like, crashing into things to combine.
Yeah,
which could be fun.
Could be fun. Could be interesting to see how that gimmick works. Especially because Hasbro has actually done a gimmick like that before for Robots in Disguise, Transformers Robots in Disguise 2015. I believe it was the second or third season of that. They did a combiner storyline where like there were a bunch of combiner gimmicks baked into the show, and all the toys had combiner gimmicks. And there was a certain subline called Crash Combiners, which was literally the alt modes were like wind up cars, or pull back and go cars. You pulled them back and you'd send them crashing headlong into each other, and the crashing would set off a mechanism in each toy that would cause them to kind of flip together and combine into one robot. And I wonder if they might be trying to do something like that here, although the rumor is that it's going to be utilizing magnets, and I think the Transformers toys just use simple springs and friction connections.
Yeah, this is a good idea of what like you two kind of semi expect. I like these toys actually.
They're solid toys.
Yeah. But yeah, I just the name. You could take the other terms from the show's tone. This could be like a full on comedy season. I don't think we've had a comedy season since like Ninja.
Yeah,
like
which could go
Actually,
either way.
Zenkaiger
Could alienate a bunch of people, or could get a bunch of people back on board with Sentai.
No, wait, Zenkaiger was comedy. I don't know why I thought, like...
Was Zenkaiger comedy, or was it just generally a good time show?
That's a good question. It's a mix of both, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested to see what the hell they're cooking here.
Yeah. Hopefully we start getting hints of the suit designs and the people actually working on the show soon, because I'd like to know, and I'd like to know if it's good. 2024 is going to be some important information to get about that year in the coming weeks and months. So again, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned to This Week in Toku for any updates we can bring you on Bakugage Sentai Boon Bombger, and we will see you whenever we have that. But for now, that's all the news that's fit to print. So Buster, why don't you take us on to the new releases?
All right, Ultraman Blazar, episode 9, Planet of Music. Oh my god, this episode blew my socks off.
This episode fucks.
Yeah.
This was, like, I know literally last week we were talking about scans and like, I don't know about this. They're breaking their thing of like no old kaiju. And I incorrectly assumed they were bringing back Pigmon. It's not Pigmon. It's the original use of that suit from Ultra Q placed in the context of the Blazar universe. And it's fucking brilliant and beautiful, and probably the best episode of the show so far.
Yeah, like, oh my, they front loaded the frickin' first half of the show of commercials just so they can let the music play uninterrupted for the rest of the episode.
Mm-hmm. It is, like, there's part of me that wants to go like, oh, this, Taguchi literally just went, oh, I want to hear what the Ultra Q music would sound like from a modern orchestra, and built an episode solely around that. But you know what? The episode is so solid, I don't care. It works. It's a really cool, fun one-off concept after coming out of a kind of thematically brutal two-parter. And it just acts as a really lovely change of pace for a week.
Yeah, I mean, it still hits you hard. I mean, you still have, like, a lot of tragedy in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Because it's about a group of aliens who come to Earth to fuck it up, find out, oh shit, these people have music and it's good, and then spend like 60 years obsessing over music, and then go, oh right, we were supposed to destroy the Earth. Let's do that with music so it can be fun. And then they have to get taken down.
Yeah, it's really sad. But like,
also, there's some good continuity and continuing to build on the story up front, because you get a little moment where, again, we're reminded that main engineer guy is constantly piled on and overworked, and then immediately right after that, Gento gets pulled into Z space randomly, and we find out. Or not Z space. I'm sorry.
Blazar space.
Yeah, Blazar space. And we find out that Blazar might be trying to take control of his body. What?
Sans Undertale, go into my eye. I had to reference this just because he has a blue eye.
Yeah, and I saw everybody else making that reference, but I don't know Undertale all that well. So I just went and I just saw that and I went, "Oh, Blazar's a husky."
Yes,
because huskies have heterochromic eyes. But it's a really solid episode, and I'm interested in seeing where the show goes from here, because like this very heavy throwback to Ultra Q combined with the next time preview of it's an episode about Gento having to deal with killing a monster or a kaiju that is also a parent. I'm like, oh, Taguchi, you're literally just doing a slightly more mature take on Zet, your other show. And I love your other show. Okay. All right, we ball.
Yeah, because like a lot of it does remind me of Zet, but I think Taguchi's like, okay, I've got my formula, I've got my winning formula, let me spice it up a bit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Also, if I would be remiss if I did mention the writer for this and next week's episode sadly passed away earlier this year.
Oh, so shit.
He couldn't, like, I know a couple staff members were, like, relenting, I wish he could have seen this episode, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's again, that's eerily similar to Zed. What the heck?
Yeah, it's like I don't know what's happening, man. I hope people are okay, man. That creeps me out. Yeah. Anyway, superhero time?
Sure.
I'm sorry to freaking that downer note, but anyway, coming under Gotchard, episode 2, a chase, alchemy, and skateboards.
So yeah, this episode was what we in the business like to call not optimal.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't love it because a lot of it is like it's kind of what I was worried the first episode was going to be. It's trying to shove a lot of explanations for things that we saw briefly in the first episode into you so you understand it and get the world. And it's also introducing a couple different new things that I'm like, whoa, slow down. I'm having a hard time getting a grasp on this. Can we get a grasp on this before we move on to that? Especially just because, like, I really don't like the way Rin or Rie is the way her name is romanized in the subs this week. I don't like the way she's written this week because the first episode, I really got the sense of like, oh, she is a normal kid, but because of her duty that's being forced on her by birthright, she tries to put on a more serious air. And here she just kind of comes off as generic, emotionless exposition lady. And I really didn't care for that.
Yeah. Well, like, you gotta, like, it's a Band-Aid every show's gotta rip off of, like, we got an exposition dump. So I didn't really mind it as much. And, like, the fun moments were still fun, you know?
Were they, though? Because, like,
yeah,
the
skateboarding.
The two moments... Okay, I'll give you that. The initial scene with Skabos was pretty cute, right up until it started turning into a monster mash. But... the two moments that stuck out to me is like, this is supposed to be fun, grabbing your eyes, new concept here. I was like majorly questioning, because there's that bit where during the first fight, two of the cards ask Gotchard to use them to make a new form. And it's just a friggin' PNG tuber. And we know there's never going to be a proper suit for that because it's not in the scans anywhere. And I was just like, why would you do that? Are there going to be like a bunch of throwaway cards that just make like PNG tubers for half a second?
Probably.
That's really lame. I don't like that. Like I can deal with all the regular forms like having to be a CGI monstrosity for the first minute and a half of the fight. But having a bunch of throwaway forms that are just there as a PNG tuber for a few seconds just feels really lazy and just shoving a toy into the episode in a gross way to me. Along with the way they introduced the bike this week. I've talked before on this podcast how like I don't like that writers don't use their bikes as much as they used to in the main show, but as much as I am happy to see any representation of a bike in a modern Rider show, I also feel like I reserve the right to go like, hey, wait, the way you use the bike this week makes no sense, because it just kind of comes out of nowhere. The fucking mentor man is like, oh, I was just taking it out for a ride because it was getting restless, and I guess it wanted to join up with you. Psych, the bike is actually a Chemi, even though it looks nothing like and barely has the level of sentience and moving on its own that the other Chemis do, because it's a physical prop. Also, it looks way more like it's meant to go with you than any of the Chemis do, because it's your fucking rider bike, and you're going to use it now to go chase after a monster mash that's on a skateboard. Not like a super-powered, ultra-fast skateboard. Not like it's on the skateboard and it has super speed so it can go way faster. A regular-ass skateboard, which, I hate to be this guy, but I googled it. The average speed for a skateboard going on a flat surface without a ramp is 12 miles per hour. And they just play it like it's a regular rider bike chase scene. And I'm just
that's
like... That's
why it's cool.
No, that really bothers me, dog. I have suspension of belief to a certain extent, and that is going past it. That just does not work for me. I feel like anybody who knows anything about skateboards knows you don't need a fucking motorbike to catch up to them.
I liked it. Yeah. I also like how okay, it's not just the villains who are going to be using the human malice. It could just be any average Joe. It's just you get a mix of styles.
I don't know if I like that either, because I was so gung-ho last week about the idea of, like, oh, the Monster of the Week is always going to be one of the main villains using a Chemi. We're just going to go to straight-up Character of the Week stories, and, like, we're not even putting that much effort into it, because there has to be a ton of exposition about the world in this episode, so we only have time for a basic random bank robber getting turned into a Chemi. It's just it feels like we're trying to have our cake and eat it too here, especially with kind of backtracking a little bit. The way they try to explain alchemy in this show feels very like we're trying to just use it as how you would use magic in a kid's show, which is really weird because they even go out of their way to say, like, no, alchemy's not magic, it's closer to science. And it's like, yeah, alchemy was a form of science. It was a failed form of science that was abandoned thousands of years ago and is now only used in fantasy fiction. But it's still a science, and it's supposed to have one very specific rule to it, the law of equivalent exchange. And I don't get that vibe from a lot of the stuff they supposedly do with alchemy in this show. It just kind of feels the closest they get is, oh, you got to balance out these two Chemi cards. Everything else is just kind of Rie waves her hand around, and then some magic shit happens.
I don't really mind that. I don't know. I mean, like, again, this is like you had to burn this Band-Aid off, like, eventually. I'm just
I feel like if you're going to do a show about alchemy, you can just go like, hey, we have one rule, law of equivalent exchange. Every action we perform with alchemy is going to have an effect on the world or on us. And you could have just explained that and then, like, shown an effect of it in this episode. Like, something Rie does has, like, a negative effect, makes her really tired for the rest of the episode or something like that. And instead, they're just kind of treating it as kids' show magic. And that kind of bothers me.
I meant so, like, the exposition, like, stuff. I don't know. Whatever, but that's a fair
critique. What I'm saying, Buster, is I could have been fine with the exposition if it was delivered in an interesting way, and it didn't feel like we're just trying to overload you with a bunch of factoids about this world so that we can kind of have a do whatever we want and get away with it card, because there's a very basic cursory explanation for everything and showing that, like, everything is powered by alchemy somehow.
I see. That's fair. That's fair.
Now, I'll admit, I've been ragging on the episode a lot. I will say, I do enjoy the core plot of just Hataro trying to get into the Alchemy Academy. I like, it's a very simple stock plot of just like, oh, you have this very simple test you have to pass, and he finds a way to pass it without doing it the way an alchemist normally would, and that makes him pass, but just barely. Like, I always find that slightly endearing. I do want to question the idea that, like, they're deliberately going like, oh, you can't do this with chemis normally because it's dangerous, and the whole reason all the chemis got loose is because another guy tried to do that, and it's messed things up, and we consider that guy that gave you the belt a traitor. But I'm trying to give the show the benefit of the doubt that they're going to iterate on that idea of Hataro being able to make shit like that happen, and it will win me over in the end. As well as, like, there's also one thing that did really impress me about the episode, I will say, is that, and this sounds like such a small bit of praise, but considering how concerned I was over the trailer and everybody having ultra-specific outfits in that, I'm so happy that both of our main characters wear, like, 3 different outfits this episode. Because it makes it feel a little more normal and a little more grounded when all this silly bullshit is going around, but people are still changing their clothes. They don't just have, here's my goofy alchemist person outfit. And that also leads into probably my favorite scene in the whole episode, is just Hataro and his mom washing dishes, talking about, like, hey, you think Dad's ever going to come back? Like, oh shit, buddy, you got no idea.
Yeah, it was a fine episode. Not as good as the first one, but like, for what it had to do, I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
All right, King-Ohger?
Sure, we can do King-Ohger.
Yeah, King-Ohger 28, Shuffle Kings. This was way funnier than I expected.
Yeah, it's funny. I had kind of an opposite reaction to the superhero time shows this week, where I went into Gotchard going like, "Oh, that was a really good first episode. Let's see how they handled the second episode," and I came out kind of like, I don't know about this, Chief. I went into King-Ohger this week going like, really? We're doing a friggin' goofy stock plot the week after a big time skip? That seems kind of like a poor decision, writers. I don't know about this. And I came out of it going like, oh, this is the best episode of this show in a long time, actually.
Yeah, like, I really like all the character dynamics. Rita and Yama was, of course, my favorite, because those are my favorite characters, so just seeing them just interact and, like, swap, that was really funny. I love all the little changes to the mannerisms everyone does, especially because they don't change their voices. They use their actual voices when playing their other
Yeah, I was
castmates.
so fucking thankful for that. That's a huge pet peeve I have with body swap episodes, is having actors dub each other over. No, the part of the entertaining part is getting to see all the actors play each other's parts. So let them play each other's parts.
Yeah, and they did that really well. I think I like Kaguragi possessing Himino more than regular Himino.
Oh my god, that was definitely the highlight of the episode for me. Not just because I'm a Himino stan, but because like I think she I forget the actress's name, but I think she did the best job out of anyone of like taking somebody else's performance and hamming it up to a wonderful extent. Because there are just so many like brilliant moments of her making the wild-eyed crazy, I'm gonna do a big macho thing like a dumbass Kaguragi expression, and it just looks so hilarious on this tiny little princess lady. I loved it so much.
Yeah. And then like freaking like Yanma wearing a face mask to represent Rita's like mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm. I also love just the moment early on of friggin' Yanma handing Rita a Mothon plush,
yeah,
and the switch immediately flipping from like Rita being like, I can't stand being in this body, this is fucking weird, to like, oh, I'm no longer mentally ill.
Yeah, it was just a nice character moment, just that like nice like moment of empathy, I thought. And then for the last, like, and then there's like, of course, you get your fights. The last 5 seconds of this episode, man.
Yeah, like, it seems like they're getting a little more serialized with the story, and I can dig that.
I mean, King-Ohger's already been pretty heavily serialized. Let's be real, but like, no, I'm just saying, just the crazy, like, oh, look at this, it's a funny body swap episode. Last 5 seconds, like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I dig that. That's an interesting tack for a Sentai to take. Whether they stick the landing or not is yet to be seen, but in the moment, I think it's an interesting idea. And I again really enjoyed the presentation of the villains this week, of everybody just chilling out in the freaking Cosmos playroom. Well, Jim Jam's in fucking moving shrink wrap. That was probably my favorite moment in the whole episode, was just seeing their fucking like, oh, to illustrate that he's been bonded by invisible cosmic power. He just got out friggin' moving shrink wrap. Like I don't know about you, Buster, but like my family moved a fair amount when I was a kid. So like I have a lot of experience with that stuff, and I even have photos of me at like 9-10 years old with my sister. We wrapped each other in shrink wrap for fun. So like seeing that on a friggin' tokusatsu suit was really funny to me.
Yeah. It's just a good like showcase for the ninja guy, you know?
Yeah.
I kind of like how like every based on next week's preview and this week's episode, like every kind of plot these Cosmo fellas are doing are just messing with reality itself.
Yeah, that's and it really seems cool. Like we're getting a Monster of the Week style episode for each of them to kind of get us acclimated to the new villains, which is a cool tack to take and gives the show a bit of a different feel coming out of the time skip. Like I remember literally looking at my player when they were going into the final fight, and I was like, wait a minute, there's only like 3 minutes left. Are they not doing a friggin' mecha fight this? Okay, I guess that would make sense, because why are you? But that's kind of crazy, coming out of, like, so many mecha-focused episodes to just go, like, yeah, no mecha fight this week. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace. I guess that's it for all the new releases.
Yeah. Did you manage to watch any old stuff this week?
I think I tried, but I failed miserably.
All right. Well, I have been watching some more classic Kamen Rider. We'll start off with the old standard. 3 more episodes.
I remember. I watched Kyoryu 100 Years After. I forgot to put that down.
Oh, you watched that?
Yeah, I just felt like I want to watch a Kyoryu thing, but I don't want to watch the full show. I haven't watched.
I haven't seen that movie since it first got subbed. How the heck is it? I barely remember it.
I liked it. It's very much a Kyoryu movie, so if you like the show, you'll like it. If you don't like the show, you'll be like, eh. But I do like the freaking the parodying all the little Sentai tropes that they do. It was really cute, and I did wish Kyoryu Navy got more screen time, because he only appears in one whole scene, and that was kind of disappointing, but whatever. But I know that's kind of the point where it's like, oh, they mess up the colors of a Sentai, so
yeah, it's a weird one, that one, but it's cool that they fought to do that. Like, it's a very specific kind of story that Toei would have only fought to do during that time, because that was at the peak of the initial boom of doing 10 years after movies.
Yeah. Like, between that and the Go Busters movie, they really had, like, some interesting ideas for, like, current show V cinemas.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue your thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like I said, I've watched 3 more episodes of Kamen Rider 1971 this week, 84, 85, and 86. Not too much to say about the latter 2. They're just kind of general, solid Hongo goes and deals with a monster episodes. But 84, Buster, do you remember what 84 is?
I do remember.
It's the fucking Ishinomori directed episode. I was not prepared, because it is so different than the entire rest of the show. It really feels like he just came in and went, script? I don't need a script. Let's just get in this helicopter and go shoot stock footage for a day. Okay, everybody else, I need these 3 actors. They can come with me. We're going to do a thing. You guys will just shoot you in sets one day. Other than that, I only need 1 day at the beach with the rider suit and the monster suit. That's all I fucking need. I'm going to slap this bitch together.
It's one of the most beautiful episodes of the whole show.
It is really, like, I don't know if I like it, but it is so radically different than the rest of the show that I can't help but appreciate it. Like, it feels like there is a very strong vision that's almost like he walked in going like, I don't care what the show is supposed to be. I want to get as close to the manga I've been making of the show with the technology we have right now. And it's really interesting. The only real possible critique I could have with it is just, like I said earlier, there's a lot of fucking helicopter in this episode. I get the feeling Ishinomori might have found out halfway through writing the episode that he would have access to a helicopter and went, oh, I've never gotten to ride in a helicopter. I'm going to use the shit out of that thing. It's
not really a critique. That's just kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's like a fucking Channel Awesome critique of like, oh, I noticed this thing that's kind of quirky. Let me poke at it. My brain still does that sometimes. Channel Awesome ruined a whole generation. But,
I should know.
1971 still trucking along, still being pretty good. But what was really fucking good is I bit the bullet this week. I watched Kamen Rider Agito episodes 1 through 5, and I am in actual romantic love with this show.
Ooh, because like Agito is one of those shows that's very much, it's fine, or I love this very dearly.
Yeah, like it's funny because I know they drop it like very early on, but it really does feel like a proper successor to Kuga in a way no other Rider show is. It's got a very similar style and tone to it. It's got a much more, I don't want to say like mature and realistic, because those terms tend to get hyperbolically thrown around. Yeah, it feels much more grounded. All the characters feel much more like real people than in the rest of Rider or really in any other Toku. Like, it has that similar thing with its characters that Kuga had that I love so much of. There's no one in this show who feels like a TV character. They're all written to have very naturally awkward dialogue, and the casting is mostly like, I don't want to say these people are ugly, but none of them are like what I would consider to be traditionally beautiful, even for Japan at that time. Maybe the guy playing Shoichi looks kind of like a we picked a model out of a lineup, but not as bad as Rider would get in later years. All these people look like real Japanese people you would bump into on the street at the time, and I really appreciate that when modern Rider, like, literally they're casting the characters out of modeling competitions these days. I like how a lot of the relationships and a lot of the arcs in the show so far have little to nothing to do with the monster plot. Like, I know that'll probably shift and will naturally flow into whatever the hell the unknowns are at some point. But right now, I'm kind of digging that, like, Shoichi and Ryu just kind of have this weird character drama of a life going on with, like, a quirk to it of, obviously, Ryu is slowly turning into a monster mash and Shoichi has amnesia. But it feels like when you're watching them, it doesn't feel like I'm watching Kamen Rider. It feels like I'm watching a traditional show about just, like, general characters. It doesn't feel like it's attached to a superhero franchise. Then you get to the end of the episode and they go, oh shit, we have to have a fight. And fucking Shoichi's personality changes. He gets taken over by Agito. He becomes a man possessed, and he goes and fights the unknown and saves Hikawa, who is interesting for entirely different reasons, because he's clearly an after effect of everything that happened in Kuga. Like, they even say in the early episodes of the G-Free system was developed to fight the unidentified life forms. It is based on Kuga, and the bullets in his gun are the super bullets that they gave to the police halfway through Kuga. And because the unknown are a completely new and unrelated threat to Kuga, they kick the shit out of G-Free every time, and he has to be saved by Agito. And I like how that's also, like, informing everything that's going on in Hikawa's life as a police officer, whereas, like, his team is going like, no, don't worry, we'll get it together, we'll get a win eventually, and the brass is like, you're barely bringing us any evidence to support your claim that there's monster mashes again. Why should we trust you? And even other police officers are going like, dude, why are you trying to bring monster mashes back up? You're clearly just trying to get funding. No, there's no way the fucking unidentified life forms are back. You're just crying wolf. And then one of them gets attacked by an unknown and is barely saved by Hikawa and Agito, and he's like, oh shit, I guess you were right, I'm sorry, but also you're doing a really shit job and I should have your job, fuck you. And I kind of love how realistic that is. That feels like a thing that would actually happen if this shit was going on. And like I said, the filmic sort of directorial style is very similar to Kuga, and I love the way things kind of look and feel in Kuga. So seeing that carried over here is very, very inviting. And the music is very similar to Kuga's music in just the way of, like, there's these weird kind of off-putting, bombastically haunting parts to the fight music, but then the music for all the natural everyday life stuff has this very kind of warm and wholesome vibe to it that is just so wonderful. I am really digging this show so far. I know there's some weird shit towards the end people have kind of hinted at in front of me before, and I know they're going to drop all the direct Kuga references around episode 10 because the writers of Kuga threw a fit. But I don't care. Right now, I'm really digging this, and I've been watching it as like my friggin' bedtime story most nights. I'll put it on before for like the last half hour before I shut the computer off, and it's a really nice way to end my day. I am really liking Agito, and I can't wait to watch some more later tonight.
Yeah, really glad you're enjoying it. Do you know, like, are you aware of the head writer? Like, do you know who's head writing it?
I want to say this was Inoue's first series. Am I right about that?
This was.
Yeah.
His first common writer, at the very least.
Oh, yeah, because he worked on Sentai for, like, decades before that. But, yeah, this is his first time head writing common writer, and I'm surprised at how little it feels like what we know of an Inoue show, at least so far.
And honestly, like, it just, like, when you were talking about that, it just made me click, wait, like, freaking semi-spiritual sequel, Agito is to Kuga. They just did that for Dawn Brothers to from Zenkaiger. But it just, like, dropped the connections very soon afterwards. I don't know, it was much different tones, both of those shows, but I don't know, just my brain thought of that.
But no, yeah, Agito good. I have finally started getting into it. If anybody wants to know how I'm watching it, it's that new sub that dropped that also has the dub in the files a couple of weeks ago, or like a couple months ago now, actually.
Yeah.
And I have been watching the dub as well. It's funny. It's not like bad, but it is definitely a slacked together dub.
I see. Yeah. I mean, it's impressive just to dub like 50 episodes of a show and just release it all at once, just on some obscure streaming platforms. So good for it, good for them. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say, and that's all the old stuff and toys. That's all the new releases. That's all the news, and that's all the twit for this week. So, Buster, why don't you tell all the people where they can find you out there on the internet?
I am Buster Corp. I'm taking a break from videos for a little bit, but like I should be back soon. So subscribe to the Buster Corp channel. I have made too many videos.
Sick. I am the Vacuuminator. I make YouTube videos. They're things I'm fairly proud of. You can find them on YouTube at the Vacuuminator. You can also find me on social media. I post clips of my older videos to TikTok at the _Vacuuminator. I post daily action figure photography to Instagram. That's at the _Vacuuminator. I have a Blue Sky that is at thevacuuminator.bsky.social, and I have a Tumblr that is thevacuuminator.tumblr.com. But folks, that's all for this week in Tokusatsu, so we'll see you back here next week for whatever happens that week in Tokusatsu.